Roland Martin did a video that I thought was a perfect opportunity to show you how the other side uses certain figures as a form of psychological operation against the black community. Now, recently, Candace Owens has been trying to rebrand herself in the black community by going on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne and the Joe Budden podcast. I've heard enough of their content to know that these are not the kinds of men or women whose opinions I hold in high regard. Let me say that. And I'm not a bit surprised that Charlamagne would invite somebody like Candace Owens onto the show to rebrand herself. Neither am I surprised that Joe Budden would invite her on the show to rebrand herself, because they come across like these kinds of black men, you know what I'm saying? They want to be so high mighty, you know what I'm saying? So elevated in thought that they just want to try to find the good in anything Candace say. And it's not going to be hard, because it's not like everything Candace Owens say is wrong. But when you take everything she says in proper context, see, I always say facts without context are lies. If you take the bulk of her beliefs in context, you get a different picture. So it doesn't matter which little thing she say here or there that's true. She is not our friend. No more than a lot of these other people on either side of the social political spectrum, whether they social politically conservative or social politically liberal. A lot of these blacks on either side are not our friends, because if you take what they say in context, you get a different picture. And that's what I thought was interesting, his list. The things that he used that were supposed to be examples against Candace only make me ask more questions like, really? Of all the debasing and demeaning things this chick says about black people and all the praise and lip service she gives to white folks, this is the best you could come up with? So now I'm sitting back, you know, my mind, I'm more of an analytical thinker. I'm thinking to myself like, okay, well, strategical thinker also, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, did he pick these on purpose? Is the intent to make it seem as if everything she says is a lie, and thereby you pick things that she says true to sway our thinking towards the opposite of what she said? Because that's the only thing I can think of. And if that's what Roland and his producers have done, then they are just as guilty, man. They are working a psyops on us also. Roland plays a clip of Candace at CPAC talking about how the liberals need to stop killing our self-esteem by hammering into us that we are nothing but slaves. Candace is right. Look, I've been saying this for like 40 years that there's no way the first thing you should be teaching black babies is that they are descendants of slaves. That is criminal. You are ruining that child at that moment. You are giving that child a permanent inferiority complex at that moment. That is not something you should tell a child. That should be illegal to teach a black child about slavery. It's criminal, and every psychologist know it. It's amazing how none of them has stood up and said that. Every one of them know it. That is not the sort of thing that you want to tell a developing mind early in their life, that they ain't nothing but the property of white folks. You kill the self-esteem of this child at that age, and they do it as soon as they can comprehend. They learn this stuff at 5, 6 years old, ruining them. And you wonder why we move the way we move, why we break off into coons and savages. You wonder why. Where else can we go? We all believe that we ain't nothing, we just express it differently. We all believe that we ain't shit, but we just express it differently. So you break off into the savages of the so-called street life, or the coons of mainstream society. And when I talk about mainstream society, I'm talking about whether you break off as liberal or conservative. It don't matter. This is what we do. This is why you got all this inter-self-hatred going on, all this internalized hatred of black on blacks. That's where they come from, bro. You cannot make black people believe these lies, man. So Candace was right, man. That is destroying us, bro. She was 100% right about that. So what was the point of Roland using something like that? He don't think that that's destroying the self-esteem of babies by telling little kids that they ain't nothing but slaves? He don't think that that's destroying them by telling them that they're inferior, because that's what you're saying. That is what you're saying. You don't tell them, they don't learn nothing positive about themselves first. So what you are telling them is that they are inferior. You are telling them that, not white society. You telling them that. That's the first thing they learn about themselves, because their mom and daddy believed they were slaves too. So the first things they learn about themselves is that they were slaves. First, then they hear mom and daddy complaining about white folks all day. Oh, diversity and inclusion, you know. Come on, man. Or they come up around these conservative white black families, right? Or they come up in one of those where they think that they're going to social economic their way outside of being black. They're going to become honorary whites, and they train their children from that point on that the way to overcome your heritage of slavery is by becoming more like or liked by white folks. And that becomes that child's goal from that day forward. So they either break mentally or they get motivated to become part of the mainstream society. Come on, man. Candace was right about that. So what was Roland's point of using that? Because he had to know that she was right about that. Surely he don't think that that's a good idea to tell a young black mind that they ain't nothing but a slave, and that they inferior, that they need help from white. They need an uneven playing field so that they can catch up because they're not smart enough. You don't put that in no black child's mind, bro. I mean, it's amazing that we do as well as we do, man. I mean, with all of the factors, man, how, you know, where we come from and how we start our journey, but it's amazing that we do as well as we do, bro. You know what I'm saying? It shows you the resilience that we have. You know what I'm saying? It really shows you, man. You know that what we are made out of is some strong material. So anyway, I have a list, but due to time constraints, I'm not gonna go through the whole list. It's like basically she had 6 points right, 5 points wrong, and 2 points. It was sort of like a straddle, right? But the last one I want to talk about is the Juneteenth comment she made. She said, why do y'all want to keep repackaging segregation? Now that's what she said wrong. She made it about segregation. That word should not have been in there. But she's right in general about repackaging this stuff. Every so many years, we get a 1619 project. We get a critical race theory. We get a diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it went from colored, then a few years later, black, then a few years later, Negro, then a few years later, African American. I mean, every so many years, we have racism. How to say this? We have the inferior complex of so-called slavery and the after effects repackaged and given to us in different ways every so many years. We even made up a fake holiday called Kwanzaa. Most of you Negroes think Kwanzaa actually comes from Africa or something. They don't. It was created right here by a black American, you know what I'm saying? I mean, every so many years, something is given to us. You know what I'm saying? It never changes. And I talked about this in my videos, how as we start to find out more about our indigenous heritage right here in the Americas and West Indies, our blacks are constantly moving the goalposts and pushing more and more slave stuff onto you. They get more and more evidence as time. The further away from slavery we get, the more quote-unquote evidence they got of slavery or theories they got. And the crazy thing, take that 1619 thing, but it's done by Hannah Nicole Jones. I believe that's her name, or Nicole Hannah Jones, something like that, right? Somebody did a deep dive into everything she said and found out, man, none of that stuff is true. Which I'm not surprised. They still pushed it because this is part of a psyops, bro. They don't care if it's not true. The whole point is to affect us here. So Candace is right. Y'all killing our self-esteem every time we look up. Y'all keep making us feel like we ain't nothing but just slaves and pieces of dirt. She's right about all that. So again, why would you associate the things that she said right and take sound bites of things that she said right and associate that with her general character in context? Because if you put all of that just in context with how you know she to be, you're gonna reject everything she says. And this is a problem. This is a problem. Because that's what I believe Roland's goal was, is to use her to turn us towards a more liberal, a more social, political, liberal way of thinking. You know, he is an operative. Candace Owens is an operative. Roland Martin is an operative. They are both operatives standing on different sides. We got to be careful of how one type of agent attempts to use another agent to sway us in one way or another. We can't fall for the okie doke, man. You know what I'm saying? We cannot fall for the okie doke. You know, we got to be conscious that neither one of them are really for black people. Neither one. Their foundation is basically the same foundation as everybody else. What we need right now is something different. And that's what the Black Alpha is trying to offer you. Something different. And on that note, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna cut it short. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Till next time, I'm out of here. I'm Brother Kush, aka the Black Alpha. Salam.